Sabre, Jamaica. Come taste the culture. September 26th at the Artisan Village by the Falmouth Cruise Pier. You don't want to miss it. Brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and its public bodies.
Company Limited, located in Stuart Castle, Duncan's Trelawney, Jamaica. We broadcast on FM 96.7 locally and is heard worldwide on fitfmja.com. Our mission is to amplify diverse voices and opinions, inform, educate, entertain, and engage listeners of all ages and lifestyle while promoting responsible community development. Fit FM 96.7. Your life, your music.
Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on Fit FM 96.7 and online at fitfmja.com brings you healing moments and destigmatize your mental and holistic wellness health features. Join Dr. Asha Mwendo, your holistic wellness practitioner, every first and third Wednesday, and psychiatrist Dr. Elizabeth Crossman every second and fourth Wednesday as they dispel the stigma on mental health and help us to heal holistically our mind, body, and spirit. That's Healing Moments and Destigmatize Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on Fit FM 96.7. Your life, your music.
Good evening, my people. How are you this evening? It's Healing Moments on Fit FM 96.7, your life, your music. And this evening we're coming to you and we want you to be a part of the process as usual. So remember, hit us up on WhatsApp at 876-478-9144 or 876-513-6668. And remember, as usual, Healing Moments, join the call for elimination of violence against our women and girls. We want violence to stop completely, but we want it to stop against our women, right? My guest this evening is Daniel Archer, and we'll be talking about a lot of things, including the report that is everybody's business because we are all Jamaicans and it is our business. A report from the Integrity Commission. But you know the drill already. Before we go through all of that, you're going to get your pen, get your sip, call a friend, and listen to this bit of music until we come right back.
Keep lifting my spirit, oh God, you keep pulling me closer. Renewing my mind, controlling my thoughts, Jesus take over. Please don't leave me, cause the things of this world will deceive me. Help me to see your purpose for me. God, in you I believe. Jesus, take me through the fire. Holy Spirit, just work through me. If it's you that I desire, I gotta hear a voice, God speak to me. See it on the can't have my youth, yeah. Me a step with the word out that plus me focus on that agenda.
Okay, music. I'm enjoying myself. Speak to me. That's what this one is all about. And you know, the weather is raining on the outside, and I'm asking everyone, you know, look out for your neighbor, those who are in flood-prone areas and all of that. But I really want to use this Let's Talk this afternoon and just run a joke with you and give you a little joke that I got. So we were talking about the weather. So this morning I fasted on and, you know, fast and pray until about 1 o'clock. And then in the afternoon, a friend calls me and she was saying, boy, Asha, the rain non-stop fall, you know. So I said, yeah, man, rain have been falling from Sunday or thereabouts for most of us. It's not you one. And she's saying, but me they tell you the truth. Single people can't manage your weather all the while, man. We need a break. I said to her, girl, what's wrong with you? She said, no, man, the time is weathery. It is nice. You want somebody to cuddle with. And when you turn, all you see is your pillow. It is not fear, you know, and she spent a lot of, I see, I'm getting support here, and your laptop. And, you know, and then for her now, it was the fact that current had gone. So rain or fall, you can't turn on your laptop because current gone and everything. And she says, listen to me, man, I'm going out of my mind. You see, as soon as this weather finish, I'm going to start put on pretty clothes them and go to road and make somebody call to me. I'm tired of the loneliness. I want to say to us ladies, don't allow loneliness to drive you into the arms of the wrong person. Be careful. Don't let the circumstances give you long-term problems later on. Be gentle with yourself. I know. Hug your pillow. Talk on the phone. Call a friend like how my friend called me and talk. Do not rush into the arms of someone because you are lonely. No, because the long-term challenges you get later on is not worth it. So I'm saying to you, in my Let's Talk section this evening, I laugh a little at her, but I know it's not so fair, but we laughed a little about the whole matter. Current gone, rain falling, mosquito buzzing, you know, ain't got nobody to cuddle you nor to help you to hit those mosquitoes. Find something to do, right? You're at home. And so that's my Let's Talk with you for this evening. Awesome. And so for wellness tip this evening, I want to remind us as well along the same line to take care of your mental health. Take care. Find someone to talk with. If you are at a place this afternoon where you just feel like you can't go on, find someone to talk to. Find things to do. Become active in what you're doing. So that way your mental health will be taken care of, because a poor mental health creates a number of challenges, physical challenges, you know, emotional challenges, communication challenges. It impacts even your very health. It affects everything. So for this evening, my Let's Talk part, we want to remind you in our wellness tip to take care of your mental health. Now, my guest this evening is ready and waiting, and so we're going to bring her on now. Her name is Danielle Archer, as you have heard me said before. However, I'll let you tell her a little bit about herself, right? Good evening, Danielle. How are you?
Good evening, Doc. I'm well, thanks. I hope the weather is treating you well.
Yeah, it is treating me well.
Getting a little bit of rain. It kind of cooled down the place.
Hold back.
You don't get rain?
It's not little bit of rain, child. Be careful. It's plenty rain.
We can't quarrel, you know, because the place is hot.
I refuse to complain. You know,
yeah.
The
boy,
heat,
God must say him can't please we.
Can't
give it the rain and we quarrel.
And
don't give it the rain and we quarrel.
Not true. But, you know, I'm thankful for the rain. I harvest water. I get to do my little farming without worrying too much. Nice. And, you know, collect water, put up for different reasons as well, in case I'm church, I step back them water every now and then. So, me not complain.
True that.
You know, I was just...
So good evening to your listeners, and thank you for having me.
Yes, again. And, you know, you are no stranger to us.
Now. I'm part of the family now.
Of course.
I've arrived so often that I'm part of the family now.
Amen. No visa needed around here.
No.
So, Danielle, remind our guests of who you really are, your titles.
I'm a Jamaican who currently works alongside other persons at the National Integrity Action. It is the local chapter of Transparency International, and our mission and vision is to support anti-corruption efforts. We encourage transparency and accountability in government, and also promote integrity in our private life.
Amen. I love how you put it all together so nicely. And as an NIA member myself, I am glad to be a part of an organization that looks out for our integrity and try to keep us on the straight and narrow. So we have been hearing a lot of conversations in the public space, a lot of facts and opinions, and sometimes fiction as well, about all that is happening with us right now. I want to hone in though and focus a little bit on the Integrity Commission's report tabled in Parliament recently, so we can now speak about it and its impact on us as a people. What do we need to understand? How does it impact us? The Prime Minister with his challenges as well. And
How much time you have?
good question.
Let us ask.
Good question. We could start up.
Got a whole heap of something that,
Not true.
enough things.
But
Nothing.
But before we even go to that, for me, I want to go forward to go back to what we're going to talk about. Then I heard that in Parliament they voted against going to the FID, and then I'm hearing today that FID have no head, no one leading it at the head. A lot of things happening, but you know what? Let's go back to the Integrity Commission's report and all of that. Fill me in. Teach us in Jamaica. What does this mean for us? What is the report?
All right, let's start
standing
from
for?
the top.
Yes.
Let's start from the top.
Mhm.
Every public servant is required to file statutory returns or statutory declarations. Sorry. Okay, so everybody we're working in the public sector, they have to file statutory declarations.
Yes.
It was only last year that what the Integrity Commission did was they increased the level so that not everybody who work in public sector have to
Yes.
file. Only some people who have a particular salary that will file.
Yes.
So fast forward now. In 2021, our Prime Minister had, as he has always done, filed his statutory declarations.
Mhm.
The rules require that they be certified. To be certified means that when they are examined in total, the commission who has the responsibility for it under the law can say, yes, we have seen that you have received this particular salary, and we
Mhm.
understand that the assets that you have and the monies that you have spent are in keeping with your salary.
Right.
What it seeks to do, the aim of this, is to reduce the instances where public servants utilize their office for private gain, and you're trying to get the public servants not to take bribes, you're trying to get them not to utilize the monies that they have access to or the information that they have access to make themselves wealthy. So that is the purpose of assessing the declarations. So this particular situation that our Prime Minister has found himself in occurred because when he filed his declarations first, they had some problems with it. So they sent him emails, they sent him some letters, they communicated with him. They said, look here, we can't certify this, because there are some omissions on your declarations. When you look at the report says there was an exchange back and forth, and he eventually explained to them that the accounts that were omitted were accounts in which they were ascribed to family members. And he said, well, the explanation he gave why it is that they were omitted was accepted.
Yes.
So when it was provided to the prosecutor now, so how the IC works, I will pause there and explain to you how the IC works. So the
Right.
Integrity Commission works in silos. When I say silos, it means that one big house, but everybody do them things separately, and one big old wall separate them.
Okay.
So the investigator is different from the prosecutor. The prosecutor is different from the person who is reviewing the statutory declaration.
Yes.
So when the person who get the statutory declaration seem have a problem, him ask the questions to clarify, him still seem have a problem, him send it over to the investigator. The investigator
Right.
doesn't know what the person thinking about. He only get one package or this information and say this is being referred to you. That investigator conducts the investigation, and when him do all the investigation now, and him sister him have a problem, him send it go over to the prosecutor now, who will examine it,
Yes.
and she will act as judge and jury.
Mhm.
So how the legislation is established, she looks at it as a judge, looking for the law, and as a jury, determining whether or not the person intended to do something. So remember that.
Right.
Come back with me now to these declarations that the Prime Minister had submitted.
Right.
So when they were submitted, they were initially assessed, because like when you go to a bank and then tick off,
Yes.
if you go some places, then you use reading pen and see if you
Yes.
fill out all the line them. Yes. And when you not fill out the line them, then so wrote them with the reading pen and say, I, Mr. Archer, this not fill out properly, or you miss out this. So consider that was what was done with the statutory declarations.
Right.
He provided these explanations, and the prosecutor looked at it and said, yes, me accept the explanation, because we don't have no evidence here. We say him did intend to deceive or him did intend to omit it.
Right.
So take the explanation and it go back to them now, and them say, all right, the prosecutor say we are not going to proceed with any false providing omissions or anything at all. This was clearly an error.
Okay.
So that ruling comes back now to the person looking at the statutory declaration, and they say, all right, boss, the prosecutor doesn't have no problem with it. Refile this document for me.
Okay.
Because I couldn't look at it before because there were some omissions on it. So when all of the omissions, and one of the omissions that were on it that caused that problem was that when they had asked him to explain something, they would have needed verification from the bank. And when the bank sent the verification from the bank came back as US currency and not Jamaican currency.
Oh.
So imagine all of those, that uncertainty around the first copy that he provided.
Yes.
So they resolve it and then say, we're not holding you responsible for these errors. Do it over and come back again. He got it to do over, and now it's exam time. Got no omission, no they know, and he sign it off and say, this is it. The person examining now sees some more questions now and say, this can't certify me. I have too much questions. How do they know that there are questions and there are problems?
Right.
Every time you file a declaration, every declaration is kept in the system for them to look at it again and for them to relate to it.
Okay.
So as they look for something, them look at them say, me not see this, or me see this, but me never see that. Or, so how this come from, where this come from?
Right.
And so the uncertainty now, because everything does not align, causes that director to say, here we're going. This me can't certify now because I have too many questions. Send it over to the investigation unit.
Right.
And make the investigator over there go on through under the investigations to verify what is, or what to find out the answers to the questions that cause it to not be certified.
Right.
Now remember, the purpose of certification is to be able to say under the legislation that there is an adequate explanation for the assets that you have. So when you have your lawful income, what it is meaning is that based on the lawful income, you can explain where you get everything else from. So if you get it from a friend, you get it from a sister, somebody dead and give
you can't.
Wherever you get it from, you buy, you have an explanation as to where you get it from.
Fine.
So when the investigation is going on now for this return, they have discovered now that there are not sufficient explanations for the income or the transactions that they're seeing. So whilst they're doing this investigation, as you know, investigations, if somebody's in the business of investigation and you know, investigators are ask question and then find account, and then, so they found a total of 28 accounts. In addition to those accounts, they saw that there was money moving from the companies that the Prime Minister had.
Right.
When they say moving, they move from one to the next, and these are the transactions that they're going through.
Right.
And they recognize that they have to assess at least 3,800 transactions. So when they're doing this 3,800 transactions and they're looking at the 28 bank accounts, they're looking at the income and they're saying, all right, these are your income, but Mr. Say you have the bond here for 294,000 US, all it pay for. What the investigator is doing is lining up the transactions with what you say you own and being able to explain, yeah man, at this where it come from. So if me did that, so let us simplify it. For every transactions you make on your credit card and you're being investigated, let us say somebody investigating you doc for fraud, and you say, no, I buy.
Yes.
Me save my money and me buy. You go take out your credit card now and say, me did pay half of it with my credit card. See credit card here. I did get paid Friday. After me get paid Friday, me did take out some of the pay and me carry go put on it.
Right.
When you add up the pay and you add up your credit card, you can see the money. You follow me?
Account for it, yes.
Right. It's the same thing with the.
So just before you go
it's
forward,
the same thing with the expenses. What they're looking for is to see that the transactions equal the monies that you earn, and if they don't equal it, that you provide a good explanation as to why or where you get it from.
Beautiful.
Your question now.
No, so in comparison now, so I want my listeners to really understand, so what they're using to as a background is as if I went to the doctor then and he said I'm to go and do a test. So I did the test and I get the results. 4 months later, he sent me to do another test. So now he compare this result with the last result. So it's the same thing now. They're comparing the 2021 against the things before. So suddenly now you are seeing new things which did not exist before. Okay, good. So we get it. Let's continue.
So you're seeing things now where you can't explain. You're not seeing how you can explain it. You know, see where the money coming from.
Right.
So you're right now, and the process involved, from the report that we've seen, the process wasn't a silent investigation where nobody knew anything.
Right.
What seemed to have occurred was that there were exchanges. So you were contacted, you were notified that this is a situation. So we're asking you to provide this, we're asking you to provide that. I think if you look in the report, you'll even see where at one point they asked for some credit card information.
Right.
So they're checking the details to ask. Now, one of the things that this investigator does, and these investigators are trained professionals. So you'd have heard this thing in the media talking about a forensic auditor. Now, a forensic auditor is an individual who can come in, they are trained. So that's like how we have a forensic examiner. If you watch TV and they can see the blood splatter and decide which direction the blood did come from.
Right.
It's the same thing with the forensic accountant. He can look at these transactions, all three over the 3,800, look at the transactions, look at the questions that them have and say, all right. This would have possibly been the 1 year, possibly the 1 year. All right, we can find where the money come from for the $94,000 bond, because I see a payment, I see 2 payments coming from the account. When you ask the Prime Minister, I believe the report indicates that he was able to say, I provided a particular amount, but when they looked at it, they recognized that some of the money came from a charity that his name is on.
Okay.
That becomes a red flag, because you'll agree with me that that's not what you don't use charities to buy a personal asset.
Right.
So that is a red flag. So they're asking to explain that. But one of the things that so their mission, so they understand that under the legislation, the offense under the legislation is what we have been talking about, which is illicit enrichment. So that is the offense where your lawful earnings do not equal to or cannot, your assets can be explained in relation to your lawful earnings. And that is really what they're investigating. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to complete their assessment. So part of their assessment that they do what is called income and net worth, net worth verification. They do another one called gosh, they all slip me.
It'll come back.
So they do one that can't remember it right now. Soon come and tell the listeners. I get old. Bear with me. So what they've done is they use an analysis. So they use 3 different types of analysis. And the 3 different types of analysis that they use allows them to be able to verify the income.
Right.
So one of the analysis that they use is the net worth, where they will call in such things as witness statements. So they call in witnesses and they ask the witnesses to verify the information or the transactions that were used. And they're doing that because they want to check what it is that you have said. Right? So the investigator don't just make an opinion. He is going to be taking into consideration the analysis, the different kinds of things that they do to be able to determine it. So the net worth analysis was one. I don't remember the other 2 right now. I will soon tell you that before. I just have to check my notes where the other analysis is.
Right.
So having done that, one of the things that they wanted to find out was, tell us what is your personal expenses? Because if we get your personal expenses, can they determine what else you do, how else you earn this money? They can be able to identify these transactions that they have. They can pin them now to particular expenses that you may have. So they can single out what is not accounted for to know where it come from. But unfortunately, the Prime Minister was not willing, under the advice of his attorneys, because the report demonstrates that he attended what is called a judge's interview. They provided submissions to the commission about the investigation. And so on the advice of his attorney, which he's entitled to do,
Right.
He did not provide this information.
Okay.
Now, put that into context, and you will hear that there were people like myself saying, come and tell us what is happening with the statutory declaration. Headline I read,
Yes.
Prime Minister can't certify this. Why
Why
it take so
not?
long? And from the
Mhm.
report, we understand that one of them was finished early, and he was notified of the termination of that. But when he resubmitted it, that's the 2021,
Right.
there were no other things that they were looking at. And so what they concluded was that having looked at the statutory declarations, they found what they would have described as unexplained growth in the 2022 income.
Mm-hmm.
So having
Okay.
seen the unexplained growth, what they're saying is, because they analyzed over 3,600 or 3,800 transactions from about 28 bank accounts, they looked at them and they saw that there were things that were omitted, that things that they're not too clear on these things.
Right.
And that is why they brought in the forensic accountant who was able to analyze the financial activities now, particularly activities that were connected to the three companies, and indicate that there were more questions than answers. And because they had more questions than answers, they said, well, we would have been helped if we were able to have access to your personal expenses, but they
Right.
didn't have it. We pressuring them to complete this investigation, them buck. They can't do nothing more because them don't have the powers of the FID, they don't have the powers of MOCA. They can't do anything to force him to hand over the personal expenses. So because they can't do anything, they completed their report as is required by Parliament, and then indicated that, look, we are recommending that the FID gets involved because they have tools that we don't have.
Right. Okay. So just a little quick word for my listeners. We're talking to Danielle Archer. She's a lawyer in her own right as well. And so she's explaining to us where we are now with the Integrity Commission and all that is happening. And so therefore, let her continue. So now we're at a place where they can't go any further. What happens
Right.
next?
So what occurred was that, as is required by law, the commission completes its report and submits it to Parliament.
Right.
When they submit it to Parliament, Parliament is then required to table it. And you'd have heard some time ago, there was much disquiet about the decision being taken by the House Speaker that they were going to delay the tabling of these reports.
Right.
Unfortunately, the House Speaker recanted. And having recanted, the reports were tabled as quickly as I think it was possible. As I got it, they were called back to Parliament in time, the report was tabled, and the Prime Minister got an opportunity to address it.
Right.
What then occurs, because it's a recommendation being made to Parliament, because the Integrity Commission reports to Parliament,
Yes.
is that the recommendation is now dead by Parliament. Parliament gets up, and the members of the Oversight Committee, who were initially intended, if you would appreciate what was happening in the public space before, the aim was for them to be able to have access to it before it came to the public.
Right.
No, we'll get it after it came to the public. And what they're saying is, when they review it, one would have expected, I should have said, a reasonable expectation would have been for them to agree that the report should go to the FID.
Right.
For conclusiveness or for completion in this matter. They have not given that recommendation, and we are at the mercies of the Parliament, because it means that Parliament has not supported the recommendation of the Integrity Commission, which would have provided closure. What instead seems to be their position is that the court, they should be compelled to certify it. The challenge with that argument is the Commission can't certify based on the information that they have. They are precluded from saying that the report is correct and that they have no problems at all with it, because certification, on my understanding, that's my interpretation of the whole notion of certification. Certification is not just for them to sign off and say we have it. Certification means that they have completed their investigations, they have completed their examinations, and they are satisfied that what has been provided is not just true and correct, but they have been able to verify the information that is in the declaration. They are unable to do that. And so what I think we have at our hands is what I would describe as a crisis of integrity. It's a crisis because we have an integrity commission, which was one of the things that allowed us to increase in our standings on the corruption perception index when the integrity commission was announced and implemented. Where we are now is that there is such acrimony towards the integrity commission, where we are short of hearing them say disband it because of the statements that they're making, disband it because we don't agree with their reports. And one of the challenges that we're having is that from an NIA perspective, we have been asking for many months, and this was an argument that preceded me. It is one of the things that is on the international plate, the international palette, called an unexplained wealth order. Unexplained wealth orders were what we were asking for to be attached or amended or included in the Proceeds of Crime Act. Because you will agree with me that if you see Daniel Archer driving a big old car and Daniel is not working, you don't see me push out to go to work no day at all. But I have the luxuries of life. I should be called upon to be able to explain whether I got it from an inheritance or it is that I have a job that is called remote working and I'm really a foreign citizen working from home.
Yes. So
you see what I'm saying? So
yes.
so an unexplained order would have allowed the Integrity Commission, if it was part of the package, and if they had the authority to seek one, they would have been able to go to the courts and ask the court, we would like to complete this investigation. We don't want to just be able to ask a question. We want to be able to compel persons who are being investigated to provide this information. So if they don't want to provide it, then we have the benefit of going to court. So one of the things or one of the lessons from this experience is saying, look, it can't be that because you're vexed and provide a particular kind of report that you're going to weaken the system, because corruption is something that if we do not control, we will not have the benefit of modernized public services, because everybody who comes in would have access to a whole pot of resources and it would go unmonitored and unchecked, and we would create a very uneven society.
Yes.
If you think, looking now where children don't have CT scans at a hospital, or even big people going to a hospital who you have to come out of the hospital and ask Medicare, you have to go get one examination somewhere. That's not right. Or that's happen.
And that is it. So my listeners, I want to remind you, you're listening to Healing Moments on Fit FM 96.7, your life, your music. My guest this evening is Daniel Archer, and she's a lawyer, and she's also chief director now of the NIA. And you are listening to us, and she is talking about the Integrity Commission, the reports, the spin-offs, and what does it mean for us as a people. So Daniel, we come together now and we are looking for, let's stick with the Parliament for a little bit. Now they are voting not to go to the FID. As a people looking at the Parliament, looking at this decision, where are we now? What are we expecting to happen? Yes.
So you ask me, what do you expect to happen?
Yes. What can we expect as a people?
What do you mean? What you expect to happen as a people? Listen, miss, I think we should do that interview this evening. Yeah?
Because I'm concerned, and I'm going to tell you why I'm asking this question. We get to understand, it's not just the Prime Minister alone who was being questioned. There are other 7 other persons.
So if you line it up that way,
yes.
As a lawyer, I believe in precedents, right?
Yes.
So precedent has now been set that the report will be provided. Daniel will blow in the wind about what she has seen in the report. The society continues to be divided along political lines. Those in support, we look at the report as a part of as a political tool, rather than looking at the issue, which is how do we ensure that our parliamentarians provide their declarations and provide the information necessary to have the declarations effectively assessed.
Yes.
This report did not say that the Prime Minister has been charged or is to be charged.
Right.
What the report simply has said is we can't go any further. We have some questions relating to the balance, the outstanding sum. We see a growth in the income, but we don't have no explanation. And the Prime Minister is not willing to provide that explanation. So because he's not willing, we can't go any further. As an aside, the report also says we need as a society to look into some things that touch and concern conflict of interest.
Yes.
This was raised as an issue in the report for us to learn from.
Yes.
Why is conflict of interest important? The report has highlighted that there seems to have been some kind of a conflict wherein you would have the head of a housing entity, and this housing entity sits on the housing agency and another board that touches and concerns real estate or land or housing. And the Prime Minister also has private dealings in real estate.
Yes.
Here is where the conflict of interest becomes a problem, and it is something that as a society we have to decide whether we brush it off or we accept it as a problem and ask that we do more to reduce the instances of a conflict of interest. The excuse has always been that we're in a small state, so it can't be avoided. That's an excuse. We need to put things in place to ensure it doesn't happen. Why? So if we have the Prime Minister being involved in, let's say, real estate dealings, as this report has flagged, and you have conflict of interest where his close business partner sits on entities that touch and concern real estate, there's going to be less public trust in decisions that are made that touch and concern land. For instance, if decisions are made to reduce transfer tax or stamp duty, could the public reasonably say, oh, because you want to pay less transfer tax and less stamp duty, make you reduce that? I see you. So there is not confidence that the decisions are being made for the purpose of the country as opposed to the benefit that you may get.
Right.
There is also the concern that has arisen that says, because you occupy such a position of awesome responsibility, I can't find an analogy that suits how powerful our Prime Minister is. Every aspect of governance he has information about.
Yes.
Consider somebody getting a report every day on the state of this country. So our Prime Minister would get a report on the state of every institution. So the Finance Minister would be expected to notify the Prime Minister of the bubbling matters in his ministry.
Right.
The Ministry of Agriculture would be expected to notify the Prime Minister of bubbling matters in agriculture. And that is how he gets his information. The question is, are there any safeguards in place to ensure that the Prime Minister and or any other minister of government and or any other public servant in high position of authority and information does not use that information for their own purpose? So if me know say a company I go shut down tomorrow and me have money in that the company and I am Prime Minister, do I operate with expedition and move my money so that I'm not affected when the autoclaps catch? What things are put in place to ensure that there is confidence in the system and that persons aren't using the information and the resources for their own personal benefit? That's the purpose of having an examination of statutory declarations. That's the purpose of having an integrity commission. It ensures there's balance. It ensures there's fairness. And where there's fairness and where there's balance, it means there's equity. And where there's equity, it means that every Jamaican has the best opportunity to thrive.
Right. So my concern now is, and I want to make it known that we are not taking political sides. We are discussing facts as is on healing moments at this time and what is impacting us as a people. So my concern is, now we have seen precedents have been set. And if we
Right.
do not move forward to go to the FID for them to do their complete investigation, and whichever other organizations that need to do that, a precedent is being set. And I'm saying this and I'm repeating it, that whomever will listen to this later on and make a report to the Prime Minister realize that a precedent is being set that will impact us for years to come.
And we don't care. So let's stop beat up your gum.
Sure.
Let's talk it and have a true conversation.
You see,
How many
because
of us really care?
I do,
How many
but
of us
that isn't
No,
truth
no,
again
this
as a
conversation
people.
we have, you know.
Yes, it's
Look
true.
here.
A lot of us
When you
really
talk
don't
about this,
care.
people split in party lines. People are not appreciating that.
Mhm.
You are not assaulting anybody. You're not
Mhm.
bringing down anybody.
Yeah.
What you want is to be able to have systems in place that ensure that governance runs for the benefit of the people,
all of
and
the
that people's
population.
reputation cannot be affected by simple things such as you not ensuring that you give you give the tools for investigation.
Yes.
Right? So we have,
Mhm.
for instance, an integrity commission.
Yes.
The integrity commission is important.
Very.
Why is it important, Daniel? I just chat your chat. I'll tell you why. On an economic level, it's
Mhm.
important because if we don't have a strong anti-corruption legislative framework, we will not get many of the grants and supports that we're getting from foreign countries.
Right.
We might hear this conversation that says we're doing extraordinarily well economically, but it also means that we don't embrace corrupt practices because it affects the ease of doing business.
Right.
If we can't do business fairly, then international people won't want to lend us support, build capacity, or ensure that they do business with us because there's an additional cost of doing business in Jamaica, which makes it expensive. That's
Yes.
one. So if we don't have a corruption framework, an anti-corruption framework that is honestly geared, and it's not a question of ticking off boxes, but it is geared at ensuring that we do not have a situation where the ease of doing business is affected, we're going to have a problem in terms of prices.
That is
Cost
true.
of living is going to be higher
That is
in
true.
Jamaica. And a good example of this is, I don't know if you've been following that conversation about the US banks and that we only have one bank that does business with Jamaica.
Yes.
Yes? But a
Unfortunately.
stronger anti-corruption legislative framework would encourage more banks to want to be part of it because they understand that we take corruption seriously. And we
So-
simply don't, because we don't even have anti-corruption courts or a judicial system that looks to expediting anti-corruption matters. We have matters that are languishing that involves a minister for almost 6 years. There is no alacrity to resolving that matter. And we talk about having sex offenders court or a that court there for children, a sexual offences court. I'm getting old and tired. My apologies to your listeners. Sorry. So we have the sex offenders court, and we have a drug court, and we have a family court, and we have courts based on these things because we say these topics are either very overwhelming, very common, and very important
sensitive.
to the society, and very sensitive. An anti-corruption court is common. It's important to the people. It is sensitive to the people, and it's important to the international community. It's not a good look to be able to have a minister, former minister, be able to go around, trot out for 6 years, and after 6 years, we don't really hear anything about it. And this is not good. It's not good for his reputation
It's not a good
because he
look.
doesn't get an opportunity to clear his name. It's not good for witnesses. It's not good for witness statements. It's not good for the integrity of the process. Because as time passes, you hear how much things we telling you this evening, so me can't remember. And it's just yesterday.
Yeah.
Ask somebody to remember what happened 6 years ago and see if they're going to remember it with clarity and vivid, such lucid memory that a jury can say with unreasonable doubt that it is so.
And will they
So we
live long
don't-
enough
we-
to go and give the witness the evidence as
All
well?
of that. And will main witnesses be alive?
Yes.
So these are factors that we must consider when we say how strong is our anti-corruption framework. So if we currently have an integrity commission that is tasked, and it's very different from every entity. Its mission is corruption focused. We don't give it the proper tools, but instead we say this is something that affect politicians too much. We if we take it away. Make them come report to we, make we tell them what them to do, make we review them statutory declarations, and we're putting all the things in place to ensure that we do not have a robust examination tool for statutory declarations when it comes to people who are not ordinary people.
Mm-mm.
These are individuals who have an immense amount of authority. Yes?
And that is
So
true.
in those circumstances, we have a problem.
We do
And
have
we're
a
not willing
problem.
to face it.
We do
Because
have a problem.
this is built on an NIA poll done in 2023, which confirmed that many Jamaicans saw corruption as a way of life, a regular thing.
Yes.
That man.
And
As
so,
That's what the system said.
mhm. And so, Daniel, I am looking at it now to say, as a people, generally, we already don't see a problem with corruption,
No.
generally speaking. And with this happening now, what would obtain if, for argument's sake, I should become rich enough that I would be noticed by the Integrity Commission and I have to file my returns? And when I file it, they have a challenge with it and they decide they want to take it further. I will now have this precedence that is already set and is being set right before our eyes as a way of escape to say you can't pinpoint me on these things because the precedents
Well,
have been set. So what's
I
going
would clarify that a little bit more. What
Please.
I would say is
Mhm.
the precedent is being set. You see, your body. I apologize. I don't mean to be insultive to you,
Yeah, man.
but
Come
you're
on.
nobody.
It's
So
true.
in the scheme of things, who are you again?
I'm trying to remember.
But if you consider that it is the Prime Minister who we are to be emulating,
Mhm.
it is the Prime Minister who is setting the tone
Yes.
for how we respond to these matters. And we must remember, the report has not said anything beyond the fact that I cannot complete it.
Mhm.
This is the legislation that I'm using. What I have seen is where there's no explanation for this growth.
Right.
I am unable to justify this growth because I asked for something and I did not get it. So I cannot certify.
Right.
There is no allegation in
No,
it
that is my
says that
thing.
there's no charge.
Mhm.
It can't be charged. He says it maintains the tone and tenor that they are being investigated pursuant to a section of the legislation that was crafted by Parliament that says we must explore to ensure that there is an equal appreciation, an understanding, an explanation coming from the lawful salaries and your assets.
Simple.
So the report only says, I cannot complete this assessment. What the report is really telling us as Jamaicans is that we need to have political will, individuals in our political system who are willing to cooperate with the process. It's telling us that we also need to give the Integrity Commission greater tools to ensure that they can complete investigations, because without the tools, we will have incomplete reports because it's going to be relying on what was it we learned in COVID? Moral suasion.
God.
You remember moral suasion?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know how far moral suasion got us in COVID because many people were either arrested, fined, or did afraid to come out because them never did have no oxygen.
Right.
But a lot was said about moral suasion. And we learned under COVID the importance of moral suasion.
And that, to
But
be
we
honest,
also-
that is extremely important.
But we also learned in COVID that moral suasion couldn't make someone with turn yard.
We wouldn't obey the rules even for our own safety.
So we needed the power of the police so that if me did come out and say me I go out dance, police could accompany me or when me I hide underneath my bed.
Mhm.
We needed to feel that there was authority behind and the willingness to investigate and trace me and find me all underneath my bed.
The slave mentality.
It is the same kind of enforcement, the same kind of tone that needs to be set when we are talking about possibility, allegations of corruption. Because let me be clear, when we talk about corruption, we must also face the reality that there will be allegations.
Yes.
And where there are allegations, there must be swift attempts to dispel any allegation
Thank you.
where they are not true.
Thank you. The Bible
And as an
says,
attorney, I
Yes.
am very focused on saying if the people them look here, run it quick and do it fast and true, because the client's reputation is
Is at
languishing.
risk. And that is what the Bible
So
says.
we want to have a system that
Mhm.
allows for swift determination of these allegations.
That is true. And as the Bible says, the appearance of evil must shun the very appearance. So we are not
Correct.
saying the Prime
Correct.
Minister is guilty of anything. But now when
No.
you make an attempt to circumvent and to cover, it makes you look guilty of something.
Well, it allows, I wouldn't say it makes you look guilty. It perhaps the better approach and the better thing to say with respect is that it makes you wonder why.
Yeah.
And country people just wonder whether or not is there a reason? What's the
Yes.
reason? What's
What
the
is
motive?
the reason?
Are you
Yes.
because to be fair, you have some persons, who are just being difficult.
Mhm.
Them just being difficult. They don't want say them have some expenses that are
Yeah, they're
really
trying to
private and
protect.
personal to them.
Yes. Trying to
Yeah.
protect.
So we
Trying
don't
to
know.
protect.
But what we're focused on and what we should be focused on in this discussion and every discussion that comes out of the report is the appearance that you do not support the mechanism. And the
Yes.
lack of support for the mechanism makes us lose trust in it and trust in you. Because here's the catch. This legislation that created the Integrity Commission was crafted by the very same members of Parliament.
Thank you. Thank you. You've
So if
come
you
back.
don't support what you have articulated, what you have promoted, should we expect others to support it? Should we have the confidence in it? Should the
That is
people whose declarations are being collected, who have to go through this very same process, should they comply now? And it comes back to what you said about precedent, but I wanted to take it larger because
Mhm.
it's not just a precedent. You have precedents and then you have very persuasive precedents. You have
Mhm.
precedents which you are bound to follow. And
Mhm.
when, as leaders, we choose a precedent that seeks to weaken an entity of importance. So a police come to a leader and ask the leader for a question and answer, and the leader say, "Me not talk to you, no, officer. Me not talk to you."
Mhm.
And the children are watching. Will the children follow?
Monkey see,
Because
monkey
there's no
do.
that the example says that I don't have to have any regard for the officer.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of things that are connected and interplaying. And I think where we're going from this as a people, I've said it here, I will continue to say it, because we do not see the impact of what this framework is doing to protect us in our everyday life, because we don't see the impact of
Mhm.
bribery. We don't see the impact of where individuals use their office for private gain. We don't see that it's an unfair advantage, because if they have access to information and they have access to money, then they can have a different kind of, the equity, the fairness is different. Because we explain it away by saying it's political, and we create a society where people are afraid to speak,
Mhm.
and people are unwilling to participate in the system of governance. All of this is simply contributing to a reduced support for individuals when it comes to election time, because we
Yes.
feel so we can't bother, and
Wonderful.
that only makes the situation worse.
Mhm.
Because then you're going to have those members who will say, if you never vote, you can't talk to me, you don't ask me for nothing.
True. True.
So it's a circle, Somebody
It's
has
a
to wake up
cycle.
one morning and
Mhm.
decide, say, all right, it's not a politics thing. We just
No.
want things better for every Jamaican.
Because for
You
me, it's
know-
not a politics thing. I just want us to get it right. Because, Daniel, I'm seeing more even
Yeah.
beyond for persons like myself and other groups that do charity work, and we depend on our international partners to support our processes. When these things happen as a nation, it stands out to our international partners as well. And it also
Well-
impacts their trust in us as a
It
people.
means that you have to work harder. You have to make
Mhm.
sure that your projects are audited.
You see
You
what
have
I
to make
mean?
sure you build up the trust. But when we have this conversation, it's disheartening,
Mhm.
because every argument that comes out in terms of trying to build an anti-corruption legislative framework that is strong and robust is going to require the examination of those who are powerful. And if those who are powerful don't want to be under the microscope, then we have a choice.
We have a choice.
And the people must recognize that they are that important.
They have the power.
So, Miss Doc, we have to ask you how much time we have because, we
have
start
2 more
here.
minutes to go.
Yeah, we start here, but I've been on your show before. We talked about constitutional reform.
Yes.
So if I'm dissatisfied with the approach that my leader takes, what is my recourse?
And that is something we have been looking at very deeply now, and I think we're going to come back and have that conversation as well, because presently we are going through a process that we should be, as each individual in this country, should become concerned about, that we have an ability and an opportunity now to reset, per se, the governance structure of our country. And all of us need to be cognizant of this.
Yeah, but you see, when you say that though, you have to remember now that one of the things that politicians have always spoken about is that such allegations affect their reputations.
True.
Whether it is the politician or the individual, we must always have the same rule that applies.
The same rule.
And for
should
me,
apply.
that is the challenge. Where there's allegations for an individual, in the real world, he's expected to come forth and do all that is required to show that this is not so.
Mm-hmm.
In the context of what is happening now, we can perhaps, and I've thought about it as we've had this discussion, because one of your initial questions is, where do we go from here?
Mm-hmm.
I think where we will find that we will go, because the Prime Minister continues to assert, and is very strident that the report is wrong, and he has sought to identify inaccuracies in the report, that having regard to his position and having regard to the position of the members of the Integrity Oversight Committee, we can anticipate that this is going to play out in our courts.
Okay.
And I think we could look to see whether matter will be placed before the court to compel the Integrity Commission to certify these documents. But certainly, if that is the view, there are going to be a host of information that will come out. So the most we can do is to continue to watch this development, but watch this development as a learning opportunity, and ask yourself, as you digest the information coming to you about this report, how important is corruption to Jamaica?
Yes.
What is the future of Jamaica that I would like to live in? And when you answer those questions, perhaps put your partisan relations aside and ask yourself, what would be the things that you would want to be in place to have a more accountable and transparent society?
And on that note, my dear friend, we are bringing the curtains down on Healing Moments. Daniel, I want to thank you so very much for sitting down with us this evening. This is just the beginning of the conversation. I'm calling you back again pretty soon as the developments happen, that we can hear them and look at them and see how we as a nation move forward with this. Thank you for sitting down with us.
You're most welcome.
Stay blessed, my dear. You have been listening to Healing Moments on Fit FM 96.7, your life, your music. I am your host, Dr. Asha Mwendo, and we thank you for sitting down with us this evening. And we will do this all over again very soon. Walk good, my friends. Stay blessed. And remember, in all things, you have a God to serve and a soul to save. And you should have a life conscience that will guide you in knowing right from wrong. Stay blessed and see you around the bend. Blessings.